Hi YouTube, it's Bonnie, Old Soul Mermaid, with a video. It's not quite a tarot video, but in my introduction video that I did last weekend, I think I posted it on Monday, I alluded to my Mormon background, and I've got some comments from many of you who were saying that you'd like to hear a little bit about that. And so in the heading, you will see that I put, am I an ex if? And so that question, if, am I an ex if? Am I truly an ex-Mormon if I have not formally removed my name from the records of the church, if I have not put in that formal request to do so? So a little bit of background on how far back I go with the Mormonism. And basically, I was born and raised in the LDS religion. My ancestry on my paternal side and both sides of my dad's side were steeped in Mormon history and the religion, and my family goes back almost to the beginning of the inception. In fact, I'm a direct descendant of Brigham Young on my paternal side. And I also have ancestors who immigrated from Sweden who were baptized by Mormon missionaries sent by Joseph Smith, Brigham Young, to Sweden. And they joined the church there and moved over, immigrated to the U.S. to join the Mormons. So my history goes back. In fact, in a town, I don't know if any of you are watching from Utah, but there's a town, West Jordan, Utah, and my ancestors were commissioned by Brigham Young to clear the sagebrush, take some settlers, and settle that part of the Salt Lake Valley. And in fact, there's a street named, it has my maiden name in it, which is, it's not really an unusual name in Sweden, but it is here in the U.S. So yeah, my history goes way back. There is still a faction of my family that is practicing polygamy. I have lots of cousins who I have never met. I'm aware of them, but I have never met them from that uncle who is still practicing polygamy. My father's brother. In fact, he has a wife who is younger than I am. And I believe, if I'm correct, his youngest son is just a couple of months, maybe a few months older than my oldest son. So, yeah. My father served a mission to Mexico, and that is where he met my mother. He converted her, baptized her, and then when he completed his mission a few years later, they wrote for a few years. He went back and married her in a civil ceremony. And it was not until after they had me and my sister, who was 11 months younger than I am, that she was a baby and I was quite young, we're only 11 months apart, that they got married in the Mormon temple, and we were sealed to them in a sealing ceremony for time and all eternity. So yeah. So there is so much. It's like, I don't know where to start. I think these videos, I think I might do a series that have to do with just little tidbits of the Mormon religion and the Mormon experience. Because there's just too much. And I distanced myself and I stopped going to church for various reasons about 10, 11 years ago. And I remember that because my daughter, she's my middle child, she was middle school age, taking part in the church's Young Women's Program. And I will go into all these many facets, but I think I need to do it in small chunks because there's so much, and the video would be just me rambling for about an hour. So I distanced myself about 10, 11 years ago, and I have not been to church since. I haven't really associated with any of the members or people that I knew in that amount of time. Haven't really spoken about it. It's just kind of been one of those parts that's I've been trying to lock away in a closet. But I feel the need, something inside me needs to be unleashed, and it needs to come out for true healing to happen. So the reason why I haven't been able to formally go online and request that the Mormon Church remove my name from its records, there's a formal process, is because of the teachings of being either a son or daughter of perdition and being cast into outer darkness. Now, this is a doctrine that was taught to me as a youngster on my grandmother's knee and mentioned by my father in some of our family home evenings. Family home evenings are something that the Mormon families do typically on Monday nights, or one night a week, set apart for a family lesson, family togetherness, a lesson, a prayer, inspirational thought, a family activity, a treat, just time set apart for the family, because then the rest of the week is taken up by other church activities. Young men, young women's, the Women's Relief Society, visiting teaching, home teaching, preparing if you have a calling in the church. Like if you're a Sunday school teacher, you have to set aside time to prepare your lessons. If you're in a leadership calling, I don't know, like Relief Society president, primary president. If you're a bishop or one of his counselors, that a lot more time is spent on your church calling. So Monday nights typically were set aside for family home evening. So I was taught this principle as a youngster in family home evening, and really had it hammered in by my grandmother from a young age, that, and I will tell you what a son or daughter of perdition is. Now, it's first mentioned, Jesus refers to the son of perdition, I think it's in John 12:17, or is it 17:12? I think it's 12:17, where he's talking to his disciples, and I'm paraphrasing, saying, "None of you are lost except save for one." And he was referring to Judas Iscariot. And I think in the New Translation of the Bible, son of perdition is translated to one who is doomed. And in the Mormon religion, that is going to be someone who is doing what I am doing now. And that is speaking in any way, shape, or form negatively about the church or against the church. Someone who has received the fullness of the gospel, gone through the Mormon temple, which I have. I went through, received my endowments, got married in the temple, was sealed to my husband, was baptized as a child at 8, because in the Mormon religion they do it at 8 instead of a baptism as a child like they do in the Catholic religion. Because they believe that a child of 8 has the knowledge at that point to know right from wrong. So they baptize them at 8. Kids are baptized. They aren't really given a choice. They do it because it's expected of them. And in Sunday school, from the time they're 3 until they're 8, they're being prepared. All their lessons are heading towards baptism, which is a big thing, when you're 8. So, yeah, when you're a child of 8, you're not given much of a choice in anything. And of course, at that age, you want to please people around you. You want to please your Sunday school teachers, your parents. So, yeah, you get baptized. Doesn't matter if you think it's scary, whether you understand what you're undertaking, but when you are baptized at 8, you fully become a member of the church. And everything, they record everything. They are a record keeping people from the time you are born. When you are born as an infant in the Mormon Church, you are, they record, you're blessed on a fast Sunday, fast and testimony meeting. Some other video I'll go over that. You are baptized at 8. You receive your endowments. That's the first time you go through the temple for yourself, either when you go on a mission or you get married. And then the subsequent times that you go to the temple, you're receiving endowments by proxy for another person who is already passed. So I have done all the things. And the other thing is, I'm also, supposedly someone who has received the fullness of the gospel or has had a testimony of the truthfulness of the true gospel, that Jesus is the Christ, that Joseph Smith restored the gospel to the earth as it was set up in Jesus's time. It's now on the earth again through his restoration, and that the current prophet, when I left the church, it was Thomas S. Monson. I believe it is Nelson. See, I've been away from it so long. I really haven't I've just really have kept away from it. So I know that there have been some things that have changed, but some of which may go over, and maybe I'll look into it at a different time. So I am the worst of the worst. I am not going to be resurrected in the full glory in God's presence. I'm doomed to outer darkness because of what I am doing right now. I am also going to be punished and kept out of God's presence because I took my kids out of the church before they were, of an adult age. But I can tell you, I am so glad that I did, because they are not going to deal, and they don't have the crap that's going on in my head right now. So being taught, I have nightmares about it. And even though now I know the church in my heart of hearts is not true, the LDS Church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and they're known as Mormons. It's a nickname because of the Book of Mormon. They're what people refer to as their Bible, their scripture. Being raised in the LDS Church was the worst thing for me. It's not to say that I don't mean to bash on other people who are and who thrive and who it brings out their best selves. And I believe that, some people do thrive in the religion. I was not one of them. And I saw a lot of people who weren't thriving as I was growing up. Early marriage is pretty much hounded on you. For young women, you are to marry a returned missionary. You're not really supposed to date anybody seriously who's not in the church. You're supposed to, you can start dating at 16, but only in a group setting. And then at 18, you can start dating solo, but you better be a Mormon. And then if you're not married by the time you're 22, oh my gosh, you're on a shelf. But really, they encourage early marriage is because they don't want you to have premarital sex. And that's the whole thing. So I viewed a lot of the young ladies as I was growing up, you know, the vivacious teenagers. Once they went off to BYU, it seemed like 3 to 6 months later they were engaged and then married just a very few months afterwards. And then, you know, within 9 months they had their first baby, and the babies came boom, boom, boom. So these young women who were like so beautiful and flirtatious and just brimming, exuding youthful exuberance, you know, just a very few short years later, you know, they are overweight, depressed, like a shadow of their former selves. And they're still relatively young women. It's not uncommon for Mormon women, especially my generation, to have, you know, 4 kids by the time they were 30. Now, I was kind of an outlier. I didn't have my first kid till I was 27. I was married at 23, and I married a non-Mormon. But that's for another video. So I'm going to be cast into outer darkness. And when you are taught this from a very young age, and you are taught this and taught this with some other doctrine and dogma, how could it not prey on your psyche heavily? You are the worst of the worst. I am the worst of the worst. And I could go through the motions. It would be better for me to go through the motions and be in this religion and participate than, even though it's making me completely unhappy and unfulfilled, than it is to be doing what I am doing right now. So, yeah. That's where I am right now. And because I have not formally removed my name from the records of the church, the missionaries still knock on my door because they happen to be in my neighborhood. They want to know if there's anything they can do for me, or they pretend they don't know that this is they call it less than active members. I'm a less than active member, even though I haven't been in like 10 years. And when I was younger, they used to call us Jack Mormons. I don't know where the Jack came from, but that's what they used to call us. But now they've gone to a more politically correct term, a softer term, and call us the less active members. So they show up, even though I've moved. Since my kids have been growing up, going away to college and moving out, I've moved a couple of times. I'm in the Austin, Texas area, and they always, even though I don't tell anybody where I'm going to, they find me. And even like they show up periodically. The sister, or the woman who's assigned as my visiting teacher, shows up at Christmas and other times with a plate of brownies or cookies, and have to, you know, I see through the peephole who they are, and I know exactly who they are with the plate of cookies. It's not a neighbor around, you know, here where I live. They're from the church. So they're still coming, so I can't escape them because I have not yet removed my name. So, yeah, we still get Christmas cards from the bishop, from the ward, even though we return to sender and we don't want anything to do with them, no contact. And we say, please, no contact on the envelopes. They still come, and we're still contacted. So it's a very hard thing. And like I said, it's kind of being in limbo. I'm not in the church, but because in the darkest, deepest recesses of my mind, I have this, that I am going to supreme hell, or actually a fate worse than hell. I think that's why I haven't, you know, done the formalities. And that's kind of a sad place to be. I'm doing all sorts of, other things. I've started my tarot journey and started looking at other forms of philosophy and the metaphysical, and trying to shed away with, get rid of what no longer serves, and try to supplement and put in good things that make me feel good, things that open my eyes. And I've often talked to my husband about it. It's like, it's taken this long. I am 53 years old, so I was about in my 42, 43 when I stopped going to church. So that's a long time. That's a long time to do things out of fear, to try to keep up a level of perfection that that the church requires of you. The amount of energy, and it's a long time to feel like you're not measuring up, that you're falling behind, and that you can't speak up when you don't feel the way that other people say that they feel, their testimony. Why don't I have a testimony? Why don't I view the Book of Mormon the same way these people do? Why am I not feeling that burning in my bosom that they say that you feel? I'm confused as to whether I have felt that or not. I have gone up in fast and testimony meetings. My husband called them monthly affirmation meetings. And it's a meeting, fast and testimony meeting is a meeting where once a month Mormon members get up and they can speak. They share their testimony of Joseph Smith, of the Book of Mormon, the truthfulness of the gospel. Yeah. And I've gone up there and said those things because it was required of me, basically. I felt like I needed to do that, or because I felt if I said it enough times, then maybe I would believe it. But well, now that I think about it, maybe I'm not going to go into outer darkness, because even though I've done all the ordinances that I'm supposed to do, maybe I never really did have a testimony of the gospel, and maybe that's why I'm here now. I don't know. All I know is the way that the church is set up did not bring out the best in me, and because of it, I've been on medications, heavy antidepressants, sleeping medications, and I've made an attempt on my own life about the time I walked away, because it got to be all too much, too much. Some people, some true believing Mormons will say, well, all of this happened to you because you walked away. You didn't stay in. No. It happened because of the church. It's a culmination of experiences. I had an uncle, my father's oldest brother, and he was mentally and physically abused by my grandfather because he was an unwanted child. My grandfather had to marry my grandmother because he impregnated her, and his father said, you have to marry this woman. And because of the time, back in it would have been the 30s. So, I mean, that's not just in the Mormon religion, that's just what happened, the way society was. So my Uncle Roger was treated very badly by my grandfather. And he, as soon as he turned 18, he joined the Air Force. He was stationed in Germany, started living a life in the military. And one night, after a night of drinking, he and a bunch of his military buddies were in a Jeep and they crashed, and my Uncle Roger was severely hurt and on disability for the rest of his life and had some brain injuries. And then he turned to alcohol, became an alcoholic, and he died of alcoholism. And I think he died about the time I was 12 or 13. But my father always used him as an example of what happens when you walk away from the church. He used my uncle as an example of what happens to somebody's life when you walk away from the church. No. That's what happens. You turn to alcoholism. You need to be put on antidepressants and sleep medications because of your experience. If you don't fit into the mold, a certain mold, a generic mold, it's very tough for kids that are LGBTQ, queer, even different races if you're in an area that is mostly white. And which the wards I have been in all my life have largely been white. The most diverse, I grew up in LA. I grew up in Southern California. So that would be the most diverse. Well, even though LA was pretty diverse, back then, my ward wasn't all that diverse. My mom was like the one of only 2 other Mexicans in my ward growing up, pretty much. She and another sister. Yeah. So racism in the church, that's another video. I have all these ideas. So yeah, I think I'm going to cut it off here because I don't want it to get too long, but that's where I am with the church, and I'm hoping to get enough courage to finally cut the cord. A lot of you might have questions. Well, how did your family react when you fell away from the church? Well, I just told you I married a non-Mormon, but he did convert to Mormonism, and that's a whole other video too. But he is not a member right now, so I don't have that. There's not one of us who's in the church, still in the church, and one of us who's not. I don't have that. I have his full support. And in fact, he was key in enlightening me. And that's a topic for another day. So, yeah. It's something I'm still working through. I really want to get to the point that I can fill out my form online and cut the umbilical cord, or cut the cord, or actually it's a chain. Actually, it's a chain wrapped around my neck, around my head. It's weighing me down. And tarot and getting to know some people in this community have helped exponentially. It's a very giving community. I found 90% of it. There's some outliers. I've had some outlier experiences, but for the most part, it is hugely positive. And that is something I did not get with my Mormon experience. It's doom and gloom. Kind of taking on the philosophy. It's very Calvinistic. The more you suffer, the more you serve and deprive yourself, the greater your reward in heaven is going to be. I did not thrive in that environment. So, yeah. Outer darkness. Is there any other of you out there who are in the same boat? Any other Mormons? Any of you who have not been able to cut the cord yet? I will tell you that my oldest son has. And his spiritual path is taking on a different direction. So, like I said, lots of places to go with this. So as a result, you know, I suffer from depression, chronic depression, though I have been able to, since I've discovered tarot, I've been able to wean myself from a lot of the antidepressants I'm on. Excuse me, basically I'm on sleep medications right now. I'm working with a therapist, but she's mostly for the medications. I have yet to find somebody who deals with religious trauma in my area. Like I said, I'm in the Austin area, who really has experiences with working with this kind of trauma. And some people say trauma is trauma and you can work with anybody, but I don't know. I think each type of trauma is unique. What, you know, sexual trauma, you know, any kind of traumatic experience, it's a little bit different. And also just like the person who experiences it. So you have to find that right person. So basically what I do, coping mechanisms, I found tarot to be extremely helpful. Sewing. I've picked up sewing, you know, in the latter part of my life to cope with this, and also around the time that my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 stomach cancer. So that was a way to cope. And now more recently, because I've been enjoying the artwork from tarot cards so much, I've picked up art, you know, here and there, and say, can I do this? And can I maybe try some of this? And I think I mentioned it in my my introduction video. So I've been working with Heather Heps. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name. She's in Germany, and she's a soul collage facilitator, and I've been doing her free 2-hour sessions that she's been offering for the last 3 months. And I think I may have mentioned it before my other video. She's been offering them once a month. She may start charging a little bit or asking for donations, but they are well worth it. If you want to have a little bit of art therapy, you do some art, some collage work combined with a meditation. So you do the meditation first, and then when you're using the right side of your brain, you start picking out your collage pieces and you place them where they are. And then, you know, she asks you a series of questions regarding the figures as to which voice is speaking. And yeah, it's helped a lot. And right now I'm doing her 5 symbol compass class, and this is a paid class. You have to pay for it, but I've done 2 compasses, and I'll show you. They will only have meaning to me, and so I've completed the compasses, the canvases. We're doing them on round canvases. The images only have meaning to me. So I've completed the art part. I've done the meditation. I pulled my pictures, placed them did a background on the collage, placed the pictures, and now this week I'm going to work on the journaling and the questions that you're supposed to do with this process. But this is the first one. Let's see if you can see that. I used some paint, and I made some skins with some honey medium and some mica and these little beads. And so, yeah, the images have personal meaning for me, and that's what we go over in the class with the questions and the journaling. And then my second one's a little bit larger. You can see that. And I created this background just with scraps of paper, and let me see where it is. You can't really see it because I've layered some spackle, you know, paste on there, but this is the background of a Russian Book of Mormon. I tore the pages out, and it was so cathartic. Yeah, my husband used to collect Book of Mormons in different languages just because they were cheap and, you know, they were cool. And I got rid of all of them except for the Russian one because I think it was really cool. I kept it, and I'm so glad I did because it does make for really good backgrounds. So I use music paper and then scraps of paper and then some magazine images, and these images have meaning for me. And that's what I have to do, you guys. That's what I have to do. I've made some little artist trading cards, little teeny tiny cards that are meant for trading. I've been trading with my niece. And she's a much better artist than I am, but she draws. These are I've made with you know, pieces of scrap paper, scrapbook paper, and whatnot from other projects. And I love bees. They're so important for our ecosystem. But that's what I have to do to get through my day. I have to keep occupied, or my mind goes into very dark places. Even though I have a wonderful husband and wonderful kids, I have a healthy body. I have a lot to be thankful for. A lot to be thankful for. And that's what makes it so hard that my brain goes to these dark places, even though I do have a lot to be thankful for, and I'm working very hard to change my thought patterns. So I think I'm going to end it here. I'm at 36 minutes and 43 seconds. If you found any value to this, please hit a like, a subscribe, a share if you know somebody going through a similar experience. I encourage discussion, a thoughtful discussion. I will not tolerate trolls, anything nasty, overtly judgmental, because what I am telling you skims the surface. You don't know everything that's going in my brain and how much I choose to share. It may seem like I'm sharing a lot and you may think you know me, or because you know others like me, but you don't. I'm just skimming the surface. And I think I will be sharing a lot, but it won't be everything. Just enough that maybe it can help somebody. Maybe somebody who's going along a similar journey, finding tarot and the metaphysical and other philosophies, coming from a fundamentalist sect or religion or cult. And yeah, so healthy discussion. I'd like to hear about your experiences. And yeah, so here you go. And some of you have been very, very gracious about your comments, and I'm so thankful. And I hope you have a wonderful week, just a positive week. I really hope for the best for all of you. I know everybody is struggling with something to some degree in the current climate. Whether it's something like this, whether it's employment, whether you know somebody who is suffering because of what's out in the air. It's hard right now. It's really hard. So let's just give a big communal hug to everybody. And let's just love. We may not agree. We may not always agree. But we can still love. So with that, sorry. I will see you really soon with probably an unboxing or something else tarot related. So goodbye, and till next time, stay safe out there.